Welcome to a top 5 Total War video, and today I am looking at my 5 favourite beginner factions for a variety of Total War titles. These factions are factions that bring you into the game, teaches you the basics of the mechanics, and gets you familiar with what to expect in this title. However, maybe it would be challenging on harder difficulties. For the most part, a campaign that is not too difficult, something that can nicely ease you in. These are all here on the list for a variety of reasons. I am going to cover historical titles only, but that's because I'm not yet familiar with the Warhammer series. In about 1 or 2 weeks, hopefully I should be bringing Warhammer stuff into these titles as well. But if you are here for the Warhammer stuff, I think Empire and the Elves are the factions to go with for first campaign. Elves and Empire, those are the ones I have chosen, and I'm picking up the game rather quickly. But into number 5, we have one for Three Kingdoms Total War, and it's Gong Su Zan. Nothing too special about him in this campaign overall. He's one of more of the side characters out of all the playable ones, but his position is what makes him good for new players. He starts in the top right, and he's the only one to start in the corner of the map. In this campaign, you are easily able to secure your back and then push forwards, which I think is very good for new players, and I'm going to take this into consideration for all of these factions. Having a good secure back so you only have to concentrate on one front at the start is very good. A lot of the factions in Three Kingdoms start more in the middle, and it means you've got to watch all those different fronts because you're going to get attacked from everywhere. Of course you can get non-aggression pacts, stuff like that, but overall, you know, I don't feel that a new player should be bombarded with that and having to get alliances to have their back secure. The new player should have it with a natural border, and Gong Su Zan in Three Kingdoms Total War is the best for that. He, in my opinion, is the best for new players. Number 4, Rome 2 Total War, and it is, of course, Rome. Any family is fine. I think Rome is a very good starting faction for Rome 2 Total War. It is meant to be the starting faction. I'm quite sure the devs had that in mind. Most people will play Rome, so yeah, it only makes sense that it is here. Now, overall, Rome has good quality units, a decent amount of starting land, and it has a baby's first settlement, and that is very important. Having a settlement or an army as a starter that they've got to attack. Now, new titles do this a lot, but I think Rome 2 does it very well with the Romans and their war against the Etruscans. First of all, you got to march forwards and destroy the army, and then you got to go for the settlement, and then there's another settlement which is a little bit further away, so you got to like expand out a little bit, and then the third and final Etruscan settlement is Corsica on its own island, so to take that you've got to get a bit more familiar with sea warfare. What Etrusca does for the Romans is it gets the player used to fighting battles, travelling on the map, sieging, and sea warfare, travelling across the Mediterranean. So yeah, I got to put Rome here simply because of Etrusca and how that mechanic works with Rome. Okay, for number 3 on this list, it's a bit of a weird one. I've gone with Napoleon Total War, France, but the Italy campaign. Now, Italy was sort of where Napoleon started when it comes to campaigning, so naturally it is of course going to be like a tutorial style of thing, but it's not a tutorial. What I planned when I put this list together was to not have tutorials, but the Italy campaign is not really a tutorial, I don't think. It's more of an actual campaign, because the game does come with its own tutorial, the story about Napoleon's life. That is the tutorial campaign. The Italy campaign is an actual, playable faction that you can get into, so I am going to count this on the list. And overall it's very good. It starts you off very simple in Napoleon Total War, but you're not in a position where you're likely to lose. It leads you into battles, into sieges, and gets you used to all the different mechanics of the game. At some point you cross the Alps and there's attrition. There's a fort at some point you've got to attack. Overall, there's a lot set in Napoleon Total War's Italy campaign that just makes it very good for new players, and I definitely do advise it, but I wouldn't call it a tutorial. I think it is its own standalone campaign. Number 2, and another weird one, but I think I was right to do this. It's England, for both Medieval 2 Total War and Empire Total War. I think for those two games, England is the starting faction. For example, with both of them, first of all, you start mostly on your own island. You might have some stuff to deal with, but you start on your own island, which means invaders are probably going to have a bit of a challenge attacking you, especially given that it's the AI and the AI is stupid, especially on the low difficulties you'll be playing on for your first game. In Empire, you also have land in the Americas, which gets you used to fighting on different fronts, and how you're going to invest in both Europe and the Americas at the same time, and how you're going to deal with that. In Medieval 2 Total War, it does start you off with a baby's first settlement, and I believe it's the only Medieval 2 campaign that does this. The settlement is of course York, something that can ease you into a battle, and I think York is perfect for that. Yeah, it's sort of like a gamer's code sort of thing. England is for the beginners. But now into number 1, and this one is for Rome Total War, where a lot of viewers on my channel would have started, so I think it's fitting that this is also first place. Now you can only play as the Roman factions for your first campaign, so this has been entirely decided by one simple point. Which baby's first settlement is the easiest? Now the Scipii, sadly the Scipii don't have one. Syracuse is not a baby's first settlement, that's going to be difficult to take. And Lilybaeum, fighting Carthage and elephants, that's not going to be easy as well. So Scipii, going to be a bit more of a challenge. I wouldn't advise that for new players. Then we got the Brutii. Now Apollonia is easy to take, but that bit of water there, the player might take 1 or 2 turns to figure out how to put units on ships and sail there. Some may do it first turn, some might need 1 or 2 more just to figure stuff out. It really depends on the player. But the Julii, I think, are perfect for this because they can attack Segesta, their first settlement, on the first turn without having to do anything too fancy. They've already got troops clearly in reach, they don't have to think about getting a navy there and then sailing them across. It's just in reach, they've got good troops ready to take it, the garrison is very weak. And then after that, who are you up against? It's just barbarians. Now when playing as the Scipii, you're up against Carthage, which is the superpower of the West. When you play as a Brutii, you're up against the Greeks, which have phalanxes which you've got to learn how to manoeuvre around to get surrounding them and kill them that way. But when you play as the Julii, there's no real threat from the barbarians, not until you get to British chariots and stuff like that. Overall, the Gauls are quite easy to manage when playing as a Roman faction. So overall, the best faction to start off with, if you're a beginner, is Rome Total War's Julii. And there we go, just a very simple list of beginner factions in the Total War series. Of course, many of you will disagree with me, some of you might put other factions on here, some of you might not. Overall, at the end of the day, it is very opinion based. After doing a lot of looking into these games and a lot of thinking to create this list, I think these are the factions. However, one issue, and I'm going to talk about this issue in a future video, is games like Attila Total War and Thrones of Britannia. They do not have beginner factions. Like Thrones of Britannia, who do you pick first? There isn't like one guideline set faction to go for, and in Attila, you know, it kind of hints you to go for the Huns, maybe Western Rome, but they're not beginner factions. And that is major weaknesses of those games, and that's a video I want to do hopefully later on this week. I think having a beginner faction with a beginner's first settlement or beginner's first battle is very important for a new Total War title, and I hope to see something like that in Total War Troy. But more on that in a future video. Hope you enjoyed this one, hope you learnt something. If you disagree with me, Type down your list in the comment section below. Subscribe for more, like if you enjoyed. If you know any Total War player who's just about to get into any of these new titles, maybe share it with them. It will help me out, it could help them out. But overall, until the next one, goodbye.